All right, we're just about to get started, just waiting for everyone to connect.
Hello, Canada. As you're coming online. Oh, they're starting to add up now.
Yep, I see the numbers going up. Okay, so let's get started because we do have a jam-packed hour. So welcome to Brain Injury Canada's first webinar, Yoga and Meditation for Traumatic Brain Injury, Evidence, Innovation, and Ways Forward. My name is Michelle McDonald, and I am the Executive Director of Brain Injury Canada. We are really excited about our new educational webinar initiative, which enables us to reach a broad audience of those living with the effects of brain injury across Canada without you even having to leave your home or office. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. All attendees have been muted, but we do want to hear from you throughout the webinar. You can submit questions through your control panel down on the right. Questions will be held until the end of each presenter, and we will endeavor to answer all of them. If we do run out of time, we will ensure questions are answered and sent out after the webinar. It is being recorded, and all registered attendees will be sent a link. It will also be hosted on www.braininjurycanada.ca/webinars to view at any time. Please feel free to circulate to anyone you think would be interested. We also want to hear from you about other topics you would like us to cover in future webinars. Please send to info@braininjurycanada.ca. Okay, so let's get started. Our first speaker is Melissa Felteau. Melissa is a longtime meditation and yoga practitioner, which fueled her desire to also help others with an acquired brain injury heal at a deeper level by adapting mindfulness-based cognitive therapy for TBI. For the past 20 years as a researcher, she has pioneered clinical curriculum and training programs for the delivery of several successful clinical trials in the neurotrauma field, as well as a multi-site randomized control trial of mindfulness-based cognitive therapy to treat depression in people with TBI. Several Canadian clinical practice guidelines have accepted her program as a best practice in the field. Melissa is published in numerous medical journals and has spoken at several international conferences. Thank you for being here, Melissa, and over to you.
Thank you. We're just going to get the webcam up and running. So hello, everybody. Welcome to this fantastic, or I hope it's going to be a fantastic webinar. You can tell us about that. I'm really glad and grateful to the Brain Injury Canada for sponsoring this tonight. So I hope everyone's clicking in. I see the numbers are continuing to go up, so just keep joining in, be patient, and everybody will get online. I think there's people from coast to coast, so that's really exciting, and we're looking forward to hearing from you. So tonight's topic really has been a popular and very de rigueur with an explosion of the use of mindfulness in business and healthcare and education and sports. And if you've been watching the Olympics, you probably have been seeing people practicing mindfulness before they start their races, or if they're going downhill. For example, I see them in the start hut as they about to start their race, and I think, look at that, they're really focusing. You can see that they're inhaling and they're doubling the time that they exhale. That's a practice of mindfulness. So tonight, let's start by exploring the difference between mindfulness and meditation and why we pay attention to the breath in meditation. There's been a lot of research done to back up its benefits, and tonight we'll look at the benefits of mindfulness meditation and the successful outcomes we achieved with mindfulness-based cognitive therapy for traumatic brain injury in relieving depression symptoms. I'll give you a couple of easy and fast stress hacks and ideas for starting or growing your own mindfulness practice. So I need to catch up and start with a poll. So we're wondering if you have any experience meditating. And you'll see there's a little window on the right-hand side of your screen under chat, and that's where you can type in your answers. So if you take a look at the questions and tell us if perhaps you took a meditation class or were part of a meditation group. Perhaps you've meditated during a yoga class, or maybe you meditate on your own. Or are you interested in learning to meditate? So if you can find that little chat part where you can type in, if you wouldn't mind letting us know if you have any experience with meditation. And then we'll be able to see the results of that, and we'll see what people are up to. We'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. And oh, look at that. Oh, that's really interesting. Wow. So half of the group so far has taken part of a meditation class or been part of a meditation group. That's terrific. And 64% have meditated during a yoga class. And wow, half the people are meditating on their own. That's fabulous. And we've got 39% of the group are interested in learning to meditate. Well, you're at the right place. That's really interesting numbers. Thank you. So meditation and mindfulness are often confused, but there is a difference. So let's see how. Mindfulness is part of an ancient meditation tradition. It's paying, as John Kabat-Zinn, the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction in healthcare settings, defines mindfulness as paying attention on purpose and in the moment, non-judgmentally. So it has something to do with intentionally wanting to be aware of what's happening in this moment. And again, non-judgmentally. So seeing feelings and thoughts as they're arising. Informal meditation or mindfulness practice is attached to a routine activity like eating or brushing your teeth or showering. It's done by directing the attention to observe the qualities of the activity and feeling the sensations and noticing the thoughts cascading through the mind. Let me give you an example. So if we were to eat a macaroon mindfully, we would look at the macaroon, see its qualities of color, shape, texture, maybe think about its flavor and what this almond macaroon with a lemon cream might taste like. We would notice how and when our hand reached out for the macaroon, and maybe it would catch the moment when our mouths begin to water. When we take the first bite mindfully, we would hear the crunch and notice the first taste of sweetness, and then taste the flavors. We would notice when we swallow, and we would also notice our desire for the next bite, and so on. So that's an informal practice of mindful eating. Now that you're probably craving a macaroon, sorry, we didn't deliver those around. Try eating mindfully at your next meal and see how different it is from the normal way you eat a meal. I bet you'll be quite surprised. Now let's take a look at meditation and how it differs from mindfulness. So sitting meditation is the formal practice of mindfulness. There are many types of meditation, and mindfulness meditation focuses on awareness of the breath, the thoughts, feelings, and sensations. Formal mindfulness meditation uses techniques to direct the attention in order to help train in awareness, concentration, and acceptance. We'll give that a little try a little later in the presentation. So little words of wisdom. It seems easiest to be mindful when we least need it. When we most need it, our capacity to meet the moment with mindfulness seems to evaporate. Ever have that experience? I know I certainly have. Like working out at the gym, we exercise so our muscles, our lungs, and our heart are strong for when we need it. So too with mindfulness training. We practice every day, so the practice has a greater chance of providing stability when we need it. Mindfulness must be experienced to be understood. So, and it can't be absorbed through a book. So let's jump right in and move from doing mode into being mode. We're going to work with cultivating attention and awareness in this inquiry. So if you'd like to join us, in a minute I'm going to ring a bell, and I'm going to invite you to focus on the dewdrop for about 30 seconds with your eyes open. Undoubtedly, your mind will wander. That's just normal. That's what minds do. And I'd like you to count the distractions, whatever thoughts, or if your mind wandered to sensations, or you had some feelings, or you're thinking about what happened in your day. Whatever you notice that your mind has wandered, make note of that. I want you to count that. And then when you hear the second bell, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and try not to think of the dewdrop. And then we'll switch to another slide, and you're going to, if you'd like to type in and tell us the number of times that, that your mind did wander. So I'm going to get my bell ready, and I'm going to start a little timer here. Okay, so when you hear the bell ring, then I'd like you to focus on the dewdrop and count the distractions you experience. And now opening your eyes. Oh, sorry, your eyes were open. Now closing your eyes and try not to think of the dewdrop. So let's put up our next poll. If you wouldn't mind going back to that chat area on your screen and typing in if you had 0 distractions, or perhaps you had 1 to 5, or 5 to 10, or 10 to 15, or plus 15. And if the results page is coming up, oh, there we go. Okay, isn't that interesting? So 7% of people are saying that they had 0 distractions. 71%, by far the majority, said that they had between 1 and 5. 12% are saying that they had between 5 and 10 distractions, and 7% had between 10 and 15, and 3% had 15 plus. So as you can see, the majority of people did notice the distractions they were having. The people that perhaps didn't have any distractions, I wonder if maybe you really didn't have any distractions. That would be quite amazing. Or maybe you fell asleep. I hope it's not that you fell asleep. So what happens when we focus our minds? What happens? Do they go all quiet and peaceful and empty? No, we start thinking. We start problem solving. We try and fix this and that. We start planning. What do I need to do next? And oh, yeah, I forgot to do that. Oh, and I got to do that. How am I going to fit this all in? And pretty soon we are down the rabbit hole of worrying and certainly not inhabiting this present moment. And soon we discover that the mind just gallops off like wild horses. The first step to mindfulness is recognizing what is going on in your mind. We all have between about 60 and 80,000 thoughts per day. So that's one thought every 1.2 seconds. So with these endless distractions, we need to learn how to inhabit the moment with some gentle awareness. But you can train the mind, as many of you already know since you're practicing meditation. In mindfulness, we're inviting ourselves to witness with loving awareness the constant flow of thoughts, judgments, emotions, bodily sensations. And if we're honest, most thoughts have nothing to do with now. We're remembering something from yesterday or worrying about something in the future. So training begins with focusing on the object of attention and learning how to let go. It's called emptiness training, shunyata. Learning how to watch the mind phenomena arise and pass away through attention and concentration. So why do we pay attention to the breath? During our lifespan, we take about 500,000 breaths. It's a constant, available object of our attention that can be a stable anchor to the present moment. And when we drift away from the breath, as we have learned, and we surely will see again and again, it gives us that opportunity to come back to awareness, come home to the present moment. The breath provides a doorway between our conscious and unconscious patterns of thought and behavior. It offers infinite opportunities to anchor ourselves and develop stability in this moment. In the Pali language, mindfulness of the breath is called anapatasati. Anapana means breath, and sati means bridge between the body and the breath. So you know when you get really anxious, your breathing starts to quicken. That's showing us that our breathing is influenced by our thoughts. And our thoughts and physiology can be influenced by our breath. So learning to breathe consciously and with awareness can be a valuable tool in helping to restore balance and focus in the body-mind. As breath purifies internal stagnant prana or energy, the body relaxes and the mind relaxes. According to the great Mindfulness Sutra, that's about 1,500 years old, mindfulness of the breath is the most important to develop stability, as it's very grounding. So we'll look at the benefits of mindfulness practice. There are many physical and emotional and psychological benefits to practicing mindfulness meditation. Since we are most interested in the brain, let's take a look at that. Richard Davidson, director of the Healthy Minds Lab at the University of Wisconsin at Madison, has been studying the effect of mindfulness-based stress reduction on the brain for over 30 years. In his and Daniel Goleman's new book called Altered Traits, he talks about the science behind how meditation changes your mind, your brain, and your body. And of course, the changes in the brain are the most important for us. And that's what we're focusing on tonight. Oh, let me just go back to that. I'm just going to go back and talk a little bit more about the three areas. So many studies show following mindfulness-based stress reduction and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, participants experienced decreased emotional reactivity. They had less strong reactions and more ability to respond calmly. Secondly, they experienced increased emotional regulation, so they had less highs and less lows, meaning more stability and resilience. And thirdly, they increased neuronal connectivity, which is very exciting for folks who've had a traumatic brain injury. So let's look a little more closely at this connectivity. Another research team out of Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard, led by Britta Hoitzel and Sarah Lazar, were able to show that an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program made changes in neuronal connectivity. Their findings demonstrate increases in the hippocampus, important for learning and memory, increases in the cingulate, associated with self-awareness, compassion, and introspection, and decreases in the amygdala, which plays an important role in regulating anxiety and stress. So there's always good news along with bad news. First-time meditators saw brain changes after 8 minutes, but that didn't last. It wasn't enduring. However, focused attention and noticing small details in the environment endured. After 2 weeks of practice, that's practicing meditation every day, participants enjoyed better focus, less mind wandering, and improved working memory. The way the changes endure is through sequential, repeated practice. Consistency does matter. So why don't we take a minute, a couple of minutes actually, and try a little meditation. And this meditation is the one that participants in our MBCT groups report most often is what they practice at home, that they continue to practice. So this 3-minute breathing space is meant to train you to inhabit your experience just as it is. The direct experience is not some idea of perfection, but it's the real experience of the muck in your life, in all of our lives. It's not pulling away or avoiding or needing to change anything, but learning how to be with whatever is arising without getting swept away by it. So I invite you to take a comfortable spot in your chair and perhaps pull your back away from the chair so that you're not slumping and that your posture is erect and dignified. And I'll lead you through this now. Bringing your awareness to your inner experience without needing to change anything. Just mentally noting what your experience is right now. What thoughts you might be having. What feelings are here. And any sensations of tightness in the body. Without needing to change that at all. Just noticing what you're experiencing. And now I invite you to redirect your awareness and focus on your breathing, noticing how your chest or belly expands and falls back or contracts on an exhalation. Just one after another, bringing affectionate attention to an in-breath and an out-breath. with no place to go, nothing to change, just breathing. Open-hearted breathing. And now shifting your attention again to expanding your breath through your whole body. Perhaps you can feel your whole body, either your arms or your shoulders, rising and falling with each breath. Rising on an inhalation and falling on an exhalation. Feeling the body as whole. Perhaps even imagining your body as a balloon or an accordion. And see if you can take this sense of expanded awareness into the next moments of your life. So I'll just briefly touch on the outcomes that we experienced in our research study. And I just want to highlight that depression is the most common psychological disorder following traumatic brain injury. Studies show that almost half of all persons experience post-traumatic brain injury depression. So it's a really limiting problem. And secondly, it's adding to the misery of which often goes along with depression, is anxiety. So in our program, we started running research studies with mindfulness-based cognitive therapy that I adapted for brain injury and then for folks with strokes. So since 1993, we have conducted 3 smaller studies to test the effectiveness of this mindfulness-based cognitive therapy program. In the early studies, participants saw a 59% reduction in depression symptoms, as well as reductions in anxiety, pain, fatigue, and increases in quality of life. And really encouragingly, the participants maintained their psychological improvement 1 year post-intervention. So that was really good for them, that they really benefited from the program. The gold standard in research is randomized control trials with multiple sites. And so we were very fortunate to be funded by the Ontario Neurotrauma Foundation. And we ran this control trial in Toronto, Ottawa, and Thunder Bay. And our participants showed us that there was a statistically significant 26% reduction in overall depression, and they maintained their improvements at 3 months, which again is really, really exciting. So our study also showed that there was an improvement in depression scores, and it showed that, or along with the improvement in depression scores, it showed a correlation to the increase in mindfulness. So we knew that the program was effective at reducing depression scores because of the mindfulness practices. So let's take a look at how do we put this to use in our own lives. I'm going to give you 2 quick mindfulness hacks. The first one is a cyborg body. Guess how many times we check our phones in a day? Some studies show that we check our phones up to 100 times a day. So this is a great practice to get out of your head. Every time you lift up your phone, make it a trigger for noticing your breath. Perhaps taking 1 or 2 or 3 breaths to ground yourself and give yourself a little spaciousness. Another quick hack is that red light. So much of the time we're in our heads. And with red light, we are creating triggers to be present. So while walking or wheeling or driving, when you see a red light or a stop sign, bring your attention down to your feet and take a few steps noticing the sensations of your feet and anchor it. Use it as an anchor to be more present. Excuse me. I'm going to wrap up by jumping ahead to two things that could help you start and grow your own mindfulness practice. And that is reading some good books. And I really recommend any book by Jon Kabat-Zinn, like Mindfulness for Beginners or The Mindful Way Through Depression. Another thing that might be really helpful to you is linking up with some free mindfulness apps like Headspace or Happify, which are available on the web on YouTube for free. So we're coming to a close, and I think we'll have to hold our questions till the end. But I thank you very much for your kind attention, and I look forward to your questions.
Thanks very much, Melissa. That was fantastic. We do have a few time for a few questions. So if anyone wants to submit their questions. Okay, so we've got a question here from Elizabeth. How is mindful meditation different from other types of meditation?
Okay, so there's many types of meditation. There's mantra-based meditation that uses a phrase or a sound, and often Sanskrit sounds, to elicit a vibration that helps to settle the mind and the body. So that's one form. There's contemplative practices in just about every religion, and so they each have their own way of meditating. So I won't get into those, but mantra meditation is using a phrase or a sound to help settle the mind, whereas mindfulness, as we looked at, is focusing on an object of attention.
Okay, great. So we've got a question from Ad. Can Melissa give the name of an author of the book she mentioned again, please?
Sure. Jon Kabat-Zinn. And it's hyphenated. Sure. Jon is just a Jon, and then Kabat, Kabat, hyphen Zinn, Zinn.
Great. Okay, so we've got time for one last question. I have worked with clients who have experienced sexual violence, and connecting to the breath or their body feels really unsafe for them. Any suggestions for those folks who feel they can't connect to their body breath?
Right. Okay. So that touches on a really interesting and important thing to mention. Anyone who might have very severe trauma can get unhinged, not all the time, but it may happen. They may become very, very, I'll use the clinical word, dissociative. So they might get a little spacey and very upset. So with people with strong trauma backgrounds, we don't use meditation. And if you wanted to email me, we can certainly have a fuller conversation about this, but we don't recommend using mindfulness meditation if it's a strong post-traumatic stress disorder background or trauma background. So I hope that helps.
Okay, so and if anyone has any other questions, it may be a few minutes at the end, but you can also submit them to info@braininjurycanada.ca, and we can circulate those at a later date. All right, so thanks so much, Melissa. We are going to move on to our next presenter. So I'm just going to just bear with me for a moment. Okay, so I would like to introduce Kyla Pearce. And we're just waiting for the screen to change over. Okay, so Kyla serves as the Senior Director of the Love Your Brain yoga program, overseeing the design, implementation, and evaluation of the program on a national level. Love Your Brain was born after Kevin Pearce, a former professional snowboarder, suffered a traumatic brain injury while training for the 2010 Vancouver Olympics. Kyla has been part of the Pearce family for years, and following Kevin's accident, played an integral role in the launch of Love Your Brain. Kyla has blended her expertise as a yoga teacher and researcher to develop a TBI-centered yoga curriculum, which she trains yoga teachers and clinicians to deliver through workshops across the US and now Canada. She was also pursuing a doctorate from Dartmouth College with research interests in the application of yoga and meditation for therapeutic purposes. Over to you, Kyla.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for the warm introduction. And it truly is an honor to be able to co-present alongside of Melissa and be a part of this great initiative. So thank you. And I think we'll just dive right in. So I thought I'd first give a little bit of background around the origins of the Love Your Brain Foundation. So Michelle shared that my brother-in-law, Kevin Pearce, suffered a severe traumatic brain injury while training for the Winter Olympics in 2010. And some of you may be familiar with the documentary, The Crash Reel, but if you're not, it's a film that describes how Kevin's and my family's life changed after Kevin's injury and really what we learned in the process. And one of our key learnings was that often after people return from receiving medical care and return to their community, they often experience a lot of isolation and a tremendous lack of resources and support. So my husband, Adam Pearce, and his brother, Kevin, founded the Love Your Brain Foundation really to address the lack of community support for people affected by traumatic brain injury. One of our key programs is a gentle yoga and meditation program that is designed really to create community connection and resilience for people affected by TBI. And I'll get into this program a little bit later. But first, from a kind of high-level perspective, I'm going to be talking about some of the benefits of yoga. First, what yoga is, and how it really has relevance for people affected by TBI. So first, I'd like to just get a sense of who's in the audience. So I'm also going to run another poll. So the first question is, have you practiced yoga before? Oh, wow. All right. Well, I'll give it a couple more seconds, but it looks like most people have voted. So closing the poll. So the vast majority of you have practiced yoga. Fantastic. So that certainly helps shape what I talk about a little bit in this presentation, since all of you are already yogis, which is great. And the second question, well, I actually am not even going to ask that question because the follow-up was, are you intimidated to try it? So for that 2% of you who have never practiced, hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll feel motivated and excited to try it out. So I will just say that the picture that is on the screen now is of our yoga program at Sangha Studio, a yoga studio in Vermont. So just to give you a little bit of the real life application. So it seems like I don't need to really get into the specifics of what yoga is, but just so we're all on the same page, I will just say that yoga does involve multiple different components. And really what we feel is so beneficial about it is that it is so adaptable to each individual person's needs. So unlike a lot of what you see in the mainstream with people doing headstands or twisting their body into pretzel-like shapes, really the physical side of yoga can be quite gentle to very vigorous. It also includes breathing exercises, meditation practices, which Melissa beautifully described, and then also some moral principles to help guide your life so that you live it based on your true values. So one of the things about yoga that is very powerful is that, so the meaning of yoga is union, and it really is designed to integrate and connect our mind and body. So I'll do two demonstration exercises to help make that concept a little bit more visceral and experienced. So I'd like you, wherever you are, if it feels comfortable for you, to gently close your eyes or just have a soft gaze at the floor. And I'd like you to visualize a big bowl of bright yellow, round, glowing lemons. So this big bowl of lemons on a table right in front of you. So you're looking at those lemons and you go to reach over to grab the biggest one. You bring this yellow lemon right in front of you and take a knife and cut it in half. You start to see the juice oozing out, and you pick up one half of the lemon and bring it right up to your nose. And you take a deep inhale, and then you bring it up to your mouth and take a big bite into the flesh of the lemon, allowing the juice to gently dribble down the side of your face. And just for a moment, notice if you can sense anything that's happening in your body. Anything in the mouth or the stomach, or maybe your nose. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And so you're welcome to, in the chat section, type your reaction or what happened to you. But I know for me at least, I feel this sense of saliva building up and almost like my mouth is starting to pucker. So really what this is supposed to demonstrate is just by visualizing or thinking, you initiate a physiologic response. So really how the mind affects what happens in your body without actually seeing a lemon or having a lemon in front of you. So the flip side of this is also to talk about how the body influences the mind. So we'll do another short experiential activity. You can do this either seated or standing, whatever you prefer. But what I'd like for you to do first is to position your body in a way that embodies a feeling of confidence. So how would you sit or stand if you wanted to, if your body was just manifesting confidence? So find that position, perhaps close your eyes, and just notice how that makes you feel. Notice if there's any shift in energy. Notice how your body has changed its form. And then we'll do 3 more. The next one is fear. How would your body move if it was manifesting fear? And once you find that new position, perhaps close your eyes or just check in and notice how that feels in your mind, how that may feel different from the position before. The next one we'll do is anger. How would you hold your body in a way that expressed anger? And then once you find that, take a few moments just to connect with how that feels. And then finally, find a way to express joy in how your body is positioned. What would it mean to radiate joy in how you sit or stand? And then just take a few moments to experience that. And when you're ready, you can find, perhaps stay seated in the or standing in the position of joy. But really what that is supposed to demonstrate is that how we hold our body, which we're often not very conscious of, very much affects our mental state. So if we're kind of hunched over and looking kind of retreated inward, that can have an effect on our mind. So one of the reasons why yoga is so different from other forms of rehabilitation is that it is so holistic. It works at a physical level, it works at a mental level. So it's really working to integrate mind and body in a holistic way. So research has shown in many different clinical populations that there are a variety of benefits of yoga and meditation. There's a small but growing body of literature, specifically in the TBI population, that has shown that different yoga and meditation practices can improve attention skills, can improve working memory, can also reduce mental fatigue, has an ability to help you modulate stress, and then also has, as you can imagine, physical improvements around improving strength, balance, and flexibility. And I'm happy to share these references at the end if anyone's interested in the actual research. So I thought we'd do a very simple chair yoga sequence as a way to really make this as applicable as possible. So I am just going to move back slightly in where I'm positioned, but I'd invite you to find a position on your chair where you're seated a little farther forward towards the front of the chair so that your feet are firmly positioned on the ground. And ideally, your feet are just under your knees and there's some space in between them. So you can kind of rock side to side a little bit to allow your seat to feel firmly centered, and you can relax your hands on your knees. So when you arrive here, we'll take 3 rounds of deep, conscious breaths to help gather our attention. So when you're ready, slowly breathe in through your nose, and then open your mouth and sigh. We'll do that again, in through your nose, and sigh it out. Beautiful. Let's do that one more time, in through your nose, and release. Now allow your breath to move fluidly, not needing to make any changes, just allowing it to move in and out like the waves of the ocean. And we'll release our hands down by our side. And we'll move in synchrony with our breath. So on your inhale, begin to lift your arms up to the sky as if you're painting a big rainbow, as high as feel good. And on your exhale, release your arms down by your side, returning them to where they were. Again, inhale, lift your arms. And really noticing how this feels, noticing where your hands land, and then exhale, release down. One more time, slow, deep inhale, arms lift. You feel a lift in the sides of your body, and then exhale, release them down. This time, inhale, arms again all the way up, bringing your hands to touch. And then on your exhale, hands come down to your heart center. Taking a moment to pause here. Just noticing any effects of the movement in your arms, softening your shoulders. On your next inhale, interlace your fingers and bring your elbows out to the side. Holding here, gently pressing your fingers in towards each other to activate your arms. Perhaps gently press into your feet to feel activation in your legs. And then on your exhale, press your palms away from you, round your back, let your gaze drop to your feet. Feel a nice stretch in between your shoulder blades. And on your next inhale, lift your palms up to the sky, as high as feels good. Really reaching high. And then on your exhale, release your hands down by your side, grabbing either side of your chair. On your inhale, lift your heart with your chest and gently pull your shoulders back towards each other. Maybe your gaze comes slightly up. If that feels too much, just keep your gaze forward. Letting your shoulders peel together, opening up the space around your heart. And then on your exhale, hands come back to heart center. So we'll do that one more time, linking breath with movement. On your inhale, interlace fingers, elbows move to the side. Exhale, press your palms away, round your back. Inhale, palms stretch up all the way to the sky. Exhale, hands release down by your sides, grabbing either side of the chair. Inhale, lift your heart, shoulders come together. Exhale, hands to heart center. Take a big breath in your nose and sigh it out. Place one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. If it feels good, you can close your eyes and just feel how your breath moves your body. And I invite you to think about one person in your life who brings you a sense of joy. One person who perhaps is very supportive of you, very patient and understanding and loving. So holding that person with your attention, and we'll all take a deep breath in to gather that sense of appreciation, and exhale to send it to that person. We'll do that again. Inhale to gather appreciation for this important person in your life. And exhale to send that to them. Allow your hands to soften down by your sides. And if your eyes are closed, you can gently open them. And take a moment just to check in. Notice how you feel. So hopefully that was a nice pause from looking at the computer screen. So thank you for practicing with me. I know it was certainly a nice little break for me. So now returning back to the presentation, I'm going to shift gears and talk about the Love Your Brain yoga program. So some of the movements that we just did are integrated into our program. And what our program involves is a free 6-week gentle yoga series that has a specific structure. So as I mentioned earlier, yoga has many different components. So we integrate breathing exercises to support people to build concentration, 45 minutes of gentle yoga for improving some physical outcomes related to balance and strength. I'm sorry about that. 15 minutes of meditation for relaxation, and 20 minutes of discussion for building community connection. And this is really one of the distinguishing parts of our program, where people with TBI and caregivers build relationships that last far longer than the 6-week series. And there's just a photo at the bottom of one of our program participants who shared before the program she felt invisible, and then after the program she felt peaceful. It may be kind of hard to read the words on the cards. So our program is unprecedented. There's no other program really in the world that offers accessible yoga for the TBI community. We're now in all throughout North America. Our program is free for people with TBI and caregivers. We integrate best practices from neuroscience, from our own research, which I'll talk a little bit about. And it's really geared towards supporting people with TBI to self-direct their healing process. So we integrate themes in each class that's really meant to be empowering and promote people's resilience. Some of the ways that we adapt yoga and meditation to address common concerns among the TBI population are to modify some of the postures to prevent dizziness and headaches, offer similar movements in a similar sequence to promote learning and memory. We adjust different elements of the class setting to make it more welcoming, such as soft lighting and no music or very light music, different strategies to focus attention and release negative thoughts, and this group discussion element to build community and support people to feel more empowered. We developed the program following an 8-week gentle yoga program that we recently, well, about over a year ago, published. And the main findings were that people in the intervention group experienced improved impulse control, felt more positive about themselves, and better capable of overcoming negative emotions, and overall experienced greater quality of life, whereas there were no significant improvements in the control group. Our program, as I mentioned, is across North America, but in particular, if you're in Canada and in Ottawa or Quebec, we have our fantastic partner studios, Pranashanti Union Yoga and Wellness and Ashtanga Yoga Montreal offering our program. And then we also partner with select healthcare facilities to integrate our program into their therapy. And we work with Neuromotion in British Columbia. Because I realize that we're getting close to the end of time, I'm going to speed up a little bit. All of the information is on our website for who is eligible to participate. And I'll just mention a few of the outcomes and experiences that people share from participating. So we do measure different outcomes related to resilience, positive affect, cognition, and quality of life, all of which have shown improvement. And in a qualitative evaluation, some of participants' experience include people saying, I definitely remember bringing awareness throughout my body. I think I'm not sure if it was this class in particular or if it was a different one, but I remembered feeling the sense of just being proud of what my body can accomplish rather than being frustrated about what I could no longer do. So really getting at this feeling of empowerment and agency. I think that's the biggest thing, is just the LYB participant being able to stop and calm down and work through the anxiety phase. So the participant is able to kind of, instead of getting really anxious and like, oh my gosh, I've lost something and now I'm really stressed and now I can't think straight, the participant is taking a step back and being able to have that little bit of mental space. So this is a caregiver talking about how their loved one learned to use breathing to help them create a little pause before they got anxious. So as Melissa shared, we also have some resources that are freely available to the brain injury community. We have some gentle yoga videos on our website, and we also have a host of different types of meditation practices. So for the person who asked a question about the different styles of meditation, we have quite a different range, and you can really poke around and see what works for you, because everybody's different and everyone will resonate with different practices. So a kind of call to action, if you are interested in our program, we'd love to have you join. So please sign up. We're also always looking for partner studios and health facilities committed to offering accessible yoga to the TBI community. So we'd love to partner with you. And lastly, we all know March is Brain Injury Awareness Month. We do a big campaign called Mindful March to raise awareness about TBI and funding for our yoga program. So we'd love to have you involved, and there's many different ways that you can join our collective. So really just want to extend my gratitude to each of you for being a part of this webinar, for your attention. And I look forward to working, hopefully connecting and working together in some capacity. And these are the references, and I'm happy to share the slide deck for anyone who's interested. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kyla. We had a few questions come in, but in the interest of time, I'm not sure if we want to keep people too much longer. So what I propose is that people can send their questions to info@braininjurycanada.ca, and I will circulate these to you both for answers, and then we'll circulate it to those who attended today. Because I'm just not sure we have time to go into detail right now. One of the other things I want to say, in Canada, just to clarify for those in Canada, March is Brain Health Awareness Month. And then June is Brain Injury Awareness Month. So we celebrate Brain Health Awareness Month in March, and then June is Brain Injury Awareness Month. So it does look like we've run out of time. I would like to sincerely thank Melissa and Kyla for sharing their expertise and knowledge. I found it fascinating. And there's so much to learn and there's so much benefit here. But I also want to thank them for their time. They both worked really hard on this. So I do want to thank them very much for their time. I would also like to thank our generous sponsors who made this initiative possible. Our gold sponsor, Bergeron Clifford Injury Lawyers, and our silver sponsor, Zare Insurance Brokers Limited. We couldn't do it without them. And lastly, I'd like to thank all of you for attending tonight. This is the first of many interesting and informative sessions that will be coming up. So we do want to hear from all of you about what topics interest you. So again, send those to info@braininjurycanada.ca. So that puts us right to 7:30. I want to wish everyone a very wonderful, safe evening, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks very much, and thank you, Melissa and Kyla.